thought I'd try something different today. Since I've been talking about it so much, I may as well just tell the whole story. Where to begin? I had this alarm clock when I was a kid that was bright neon green. I don't know why they would make an alarm clock so bright and so green. I seem to associate that alarm clock with my neck pain because when I was a kid, I want to say 8, I'm not entirely sure, that's when I started to notice that I would toss and turn and take forever to get to sleep because I was in so much discomfort with my neck. I just could not, for the life of me, find that comfy position to fall asleep in. And I would stare at this alarm clock. My neck pain is green and neon. I don't think I really questioned having neck pain. It was just kind of there. And it wasn't so intense that I couldn't do normal kid things, but it was intense enough that my mum took me to see a chiropractor. She would have to take me out of school to go get my neck adjusted. And that was helpful. That was definitely a good thing for me. It gave me some relief. It also, as a kid, helped me feel like my pain wasn't being ignored. I was really lucky to have parents who listened to me when I said, hey, this hurts. But even when I was in primary school, I remember being very cognizant of the fact that this was not solving the issue. And the other factor to this was I got an X-ray that showed a neck that was out of alignment, as they say. God damn, the amount of times I have heard that phrase. Something about the word alignment triggers me. And that X-ray became the representation of my neck pain. Whenever I had pain, I thought of that X-ray image. Those words and that image and the things that I was told by my chiropractor and the other people that I was seeing, they all really stuck with me. I was being told over and over again that my neck was wrong, that it was damaged, that it needed to be fixed. And I was told that for years. And looking back, I realized that one question that was never really asked was, how do you feel? As in emotionally. When does the pain get worse? What makes it feel better? Are there any situations that trigger the pain? I think it would have been very interesting to ask those questions at that time, even when I was quite young. I think it would have been quite revealing. But, you know, I also don't blame anyone, including my parents, for not asking those questions, because those were not the kind of questions that you asked back then. And honestly, not that much has changed in 20 years, but you know, we're getting there. I feel like the idea of asking about stress in relation to pain is not as out of the box as it used to be. Now, one thing that definitely did happen was the pain got worse as I got older. I got way more symptoms, and one of those very fun symptoms was jaw pain. I started to get this clicking and clonking in my jaw, and one day I remember I clonked down and then my jaw just didn't open again. It just decided, nope, we're gonna stay here. And that's when we really knew, okay, something is wrong. So when this jaw issue came up, I went to see a physio. And this physio was probably very good at his job, but for some reason he decided that, okay, we're gonna go in with dry needling. As a physical therapist, I sort of look back on that and I go like, oh God, why did we do it like this? Because not only did I get needles in my jaw, I also got needles in my mouth. So it was needles in both directions, in a part of my body that was already in so much pain. And I just remember sort of gripping onto the table, just like holding on for dear life while this guy has his fingers in my mouth, putting needles into my jaw from both sides. I think that's partly why I have this deep-seated, probably unfair hatred of dry needling. I'm totally biased. I can't stand it. But I think it was my earliest experience of how brute force does not help. That's the other thing. If it had given results, fine, I guess, but there was no relief. All right, so cut to, I finish high school and enter into my 20s, which, as we all know, is when the stress can really get going. There was more responsibility, relationships, drama, job, money, having to pay rent. It was just a time of heightened stress. And I had just come back from a job overseas that was a little traumatic. And I don't use that word lightly, but I did come back with a lot of anxiety. Waking up in the middle of the night, terror kind of anxiety. So my body was stressed. It was at its limit. And that is actually when my eczema started to rear its ugly head. But that is a story for another time. But as you can imagine, as my eczema got worse, my neck and shoulder and jaw and headache pain all got a lot worse as well. Because when you have eczema that is all over your neck to the point where you can't turn your head because you might split your skin open, you can kind of see how that might make neck pain flare up pretty hard. But when I was 23, even in the middle of all of this, I started massage school, which was the best decision I could have ever made. I felt like I had found my calling. I absolutely loved it, which is kind of ironic because I'd never really had much success with physical therapy, and I couldn't even really receive massages at the time because my skin was such a problem. But I loved it. I loved going to school and learning the anatomy and massaging other people and feeling what was going on inside their bodies. And I think all of my experience with my neck pain and headaches and shoulder pain and all of that gave me a real sense of empathy for what my clients, although when I was at school, faux clients, student clients, were going through. I was in the student clinic and a guy came in with really bad neck pain, like just rock solid, really tense. He said he had a history of headaches and jaw issues. And what I had been taught to do was, treat XYZ muscle and hold trigger point 1, 2, and 3 for X amount of seconds, blah, 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 blah. But for some reason, I just didn't want to do any of that in that moment. I didn't press, I didn't do anything. I just held the tension. And I then walked this guy through, I guess it was kind of like a somatic tracking style exercise. I had zero concept of what that was at the time. I don't know where the hell this came from, but in the moment, it just felt right. And I was just like, okay, just feel the sensations in your neck. Breathe in, breathe out, feel yourself sink into the table. And within not even a minute, this guy just went, like he just melted into my hands. Such a moment of realization for me because I didn't do anything. And this guy went, oh, that feels better. And that moment showed me that you don't need to manipulate the body or dig into the muscles or really do anything to help someone let go of tension and therefore release pain. And I thought, well, if I could do that for someone else by basically just talking to them, could I do that for myself? So I took myself home and I went and sat in my little meditation corner that I'd set up for myself. And I sat down and I just kind of went, let there be pain. Instead of trying to get rid of the pain, I made a conscious decision to just watch it. And that was the first time I experienced for myself what it felt like to feel the sensations change. And then I felt them actually unwind. And then I felt the tension let itself go. And I don't really think I had experienced that up until that moment. And that was so important because it felt like I had found the dimmer switch on my neck pain without external force, without needing someone else to help me, without needing hands on my body, which for me in my circumstance was extremely important. Then what I started to do was I would practice that every day. It wasn't just helping my neck pain, I feel like it also started to calm down my eczema. Not in any obvious sort of like miracle cure kind of way, but just in a subtle cooling sort of way. When my neck pain and my eczema went from just being bad all of the time to me having some conscious control and being able to calm them down and then watching what flared them back up, that gave me a lot of useful information. As I sort of confronted the things that were flaring up my eczema and confronted the thought patterns and emotional habits and beliefs that I had that sort of got me into that place in the first place, my neck pain just got better and better and better and better. I wasn't taking Nurofen every day. I wasn't tossing and turning in my sleep. I wasn't worried about my jaw locking. I wasn't getting weakness in my arms. And I think that's because my base level of tension and stress had come way down. And I spent a good few years just unencumbered, sleeping right, relaxed, kind of just enjoying life. It was amazing. And I was like, all right, I'm cured, done. Or so I thought. A few years later, I met my now husband and I moved to Sydney to live with him. And that was a really happy, wonderful time. It was so good. But it did also shake up some baggage that I didn't really know was there. When I moved to Sydney, my income took a huge hit. I had to start my business from scratch. And thankfully, I was in a wonderfully fortunate position that my then boyfriend, now husband, had a great job and he was able to look after us and the house, and I was able to build my business slowly. God damn, that messed with my sense of self-worth. I based my self-worth off how much money I was making. And so when my income took a hit, my business was not building back as quickly as I had hoped, my self-esteem plummeted harder than a Led Zeppelin. After about 6 months of wrestling with this sort of unnecessary existential crisis, I started to develop neck pain again. I kid you not, I was tossing and turning in bed again. I was getting headaches. I was popping Nurofen every other day, to the point where I was like, oh my God, something must be wrong. This can't just be stress, because I know how to handle that. There must be something going on here. So I actually went to chiropractors and physios, and I tried to figure out like, what's wrong with my body? I even went to a doctor. I went there being like, I'm getting all these headaches and jaw pain and neck pain. Like, there must be something going on here. And of course, it all turned up just as it had before. Short-term relief, no real answers, and no real lasting solution. I don't know why it took me so long to realize what was going on, but you know, these things have a way of unfolding in the way that they were meant to, because at the time I was studying to become a counselor, which meant that I was actually seeing a counselor as part of my qualification. Thank God, because I don't think I would have thought to talk to someone about this. So I'm talking with my counselor and we were just chatting. I was kind of not thinking about anything in particular. And then I suddenly found myself saying, yeah, I think I've accepted that I'm a failure. And that triggered something, because I then just kind of word vomited all of this stuff that had been bubbling away in me for the past year, ever since I'd moved to Sydney. And I just kind of let it all out in this very wonderful, safe environment that my counselor had created. And I just kind of went, blah, 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 blah. I'm a failure. I'm never going to live up to what I thought I should. I'm never going to make the money that I thought I was going to. I'm never going to make it. And maybe that's okay. Maybe I just have to make peace with that. And bleh. The feeling after I had finished this word salad of all the crap that had been in my head, that had been brewing inside me for so long. I finished and I was just kind of like, oh, I did not realize what was going on. And for days afterwards, I was getting these waves of anxiety and depression and anger and frustration and all of these really intense emotions. And thankfully, I had the presence of mind to not resist it. And I just kind of let them come up, you know? And with every wave that came, I just let it happen. I let it out. And they got less intense. My phone just ran out of battery. I clearly need to wrap this up. Long story, extremely long story, slightly shorter, still kind of long, sorry. The interesting thing, and the whole reason that I'm making this video, is that by the end of it, I felt like a new person. I know that sounds dramatic, and honestly, this whole video is very dramatic. I'm a bit of a drama queen, I know that, but it was kind of a dramatic experience. What it taught me was I had spent a year ignoring the signs all over again, just like I had done leading up to my skin issues and my neck pain initially. I had spent a full year with these horrible, untrue, self-deprecating, dare I say toxic notions about myself. And then I wondered why I was in pain. I'm kind of glad that I went through it because it did show me how easy it is to sort of lose track of yourself. I don't know how else to say that, but that's what it felt like. I had lost track of who I really was. When I came out of this experience and after sort of letting all of this gunk come out, I felt great, not just mentally, but physically. My neck pain disappeared. The headaches went away. The difference was night and day. It was so remarkable to see how quickly my body just shifted from this tight, knotted up, painful gremlin to this open, way more comfortable, confident, functional human being. And the only thing that changed was the mindset. And now I look at neck pain very differently. I see it as like, you know, that best friend that you really want in your corner, the one that doesn't let you get away with saying, I'm fine, when you're not. You kind of want that sassy, bitchy friend to tell you what's really happening. To point out, like, hey, you're not okay, stop lying to yourself. And that is what my neck does for me these days. Anywho, that was a ramble and a half. I hope someone finds this useful. I think my neck pain story is not unique. There are probably quite a lot of people who have gone through what I've been through. But I've just been lucky enough to be surrounded by the support and the resources and the knowledge that I needed to find my way out. And I really hope that I can be that for other people now. Okay, if you're still with me, thank you so much for sticking around to the end of this very rambly story. And I will see you in the next video, which I promise will be a lot more succinct. I don't know, I hope that was good. I hope I covered everything. I think I did.